Welcome to the Morning Formation. This episode is powered by Act Now Education.
Yes, so our mission is to help end veteran homelessness. Unfortunately, a lot of the homeless population, they are veterans or military affiliated in some way, shape, or form. And so we really make it our mission to go out in the streets and help these homeless veterans. So we have housing units, housing locations. We also have a workforce development program to help them transition into civilian life, have successful careers.
This episode is dedicated to Heather Harvin's father, retired Army veteran Roy Harvin, who raised a daughter that's now giving back to the few and the brave. Warriors, fall in. It's time for formation. Today I'm joined with a very talented guest who grew up as a military brat. Her father and his actual twin both retired from the United States Army, which is pretty interesting in my opinion. Today our guest serves as a National Corporate and Community Relations Coordinator for U.S. VETS, and we're going to talk about her employer, her position, her journey, and her passion for reaching back and helping out the veteran community. So today I'd like to welcome Ms. Heather Harvin to the Morning Formation Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
No, listen, I met you last fall at the Military Influencer Conference.
Yep.
Along with many other folks that I had known virtually through the pandemic. And it was interesting to talk to you and just to hear your overall passion. And I wanted to definitely get you on the podcast to talk about your position because it's such an important position. But, you know, doing research on you, Heather, and I know you briefly spoke about this before too, you've seen quite a bit of success in music, specifically in singing.
A little.
And I know from being a military brat, myself being a military brat, that it was quite a challenge to have steady educational studies and any type of steady hobby. Now, how did your singing talent come along with your upbringing with being a military dependent?
No, for sure. That's actually a great question. No one's ever asked me that before, so thank you. It was quite interesting because, so my dad actually sings, fun fact. And he's not very public about it, but the fact that he sings, he actually was a great encourager to me pursuing music and singing and everything. And so I lucked up because my dad was retired by the time I was trying to take my music and singing very seriously at a young age. And so I was able to train and go to classes and go to different schools to really educate myself with my music. So I'm super fortunate for that. My brothers, however, did not have that experience with my dad being in the military at the time. So I feel bad for them, but I don't feel bad for me.
Right. I don't know. There's pros and cons to that. On one hand, I look back at my time, childhood growing up, and I think, man, I really wish I could have created those deep roots with whatever school I ended up at. But on the other hand, I moved from Hawaii to the state of Ohio and everywhere in between. I met so many people over the span of my childhood that by the time I was fully an adult, I guess I had a real appreciation for, I guess, all types of cultures, and that's the beauty of being a military brat. But you didn't get a chance to really experience that, huh?
I didn't know. We moved once and we moved maybe 30-45 minutes from one place to the other. That was really it. But I will say I did experience my dad's very strict nature. We'll say that. And I'm very fortunate because the discipline that he instilled in me, I really believe that it has shaped me to be the woman that I am today, for sure. So shout out to the military and all of the rules and just all of the structure, because it creates a great foundation in being an adult. And I wholeheartedly believe that. And I'm grateful.
I can tell that you and your father have a lot of respect for one another because I know that you mentioned him on some of your Instagram posts and even how you carry yourself as well. You're very professional, and I have a deep appreciation for that. Even when I met you at the conference, when I met you at the conference talking to you, it was great, And speaking of the Military Influencer Conference, what did you think about it? What was your greatest takeaway from the event, and are you planning on going back in 2023?
For sure. I will be very honest. I didn't know what to expect. And it kind of fell into my lap because one of our corporate sponsors that we work with at US Vets, my job, she actually invited us and she was one of the speakers during the Military Influencer Conference. And so um, I went in a little bit hesitant. Like I said, I didn't know what to expect. And I will say that I left feeling very encouraged and inspired and motivated to go back to US Vets, making sure that we really do our best to help end veteran homelessness. And just to see, it was inspiring to see a lot of veterans and just a lot of influencers and also business owners in the military that really are successful because they just work so hard. And it just gives me faith and vision for the veterans that we serve currently at US Vets, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So were you able to stay the whole time, or were you just there for a couple of days?
So I think so. The first night, that's when we met. My first night we had met, and
Right.
then I left. I want to say that Saturday evening. So I
Okay.
think I'm not sure. I think that might have been majority of the conference.
Yeah. Yeah. It actually was. I wish I had
Okay.
stayed the whole time. I was only there for like 2 days, but I think next
Oh,
year
okay.
I'm gonna plan on staying there the whole time next year because there was so much going on and so much to take in at that conference. But you know what? And it was interesting to talk to you to hear about your father and his twin
Mhm.
go into the army and actually retire out of the army, and how much love and respect you have for each other. But also too, would you mind talking to me as far as like what you do know about your father's military service? What was your family's experience like? What do some of the things that your siblings say about it?
It's so it's funny because I actually just found this out at Christmas 2022, so a few months ago. So my dad actually served in the army while all three, excuse me, two of my three siblings, so two of my brothers while they were born. So he didn't even get a chance to see their birth. I had
Wow.
no idea. And so of course there's a little saltiness and bitterness there on their part, and I understand.
Right.
But I do know my dad always talks about his favorite country is Germany. So he served in Germany for a few years and he loved it. And he always talks about just when the Berlin Wall came down because he was stationed there, and then he just my dad is pretty old, so that just shows you like how long ago he served. But so many memories, and he always talks about how so when he enlisted, he and my uncle, they did not know that they were twins. And
Yeah.
so my dad, he talks about how one of the sergeants, had asked for Harvin. I saw last name Harvin. And so my dad stepped up first, introduced himself. You know how it goes, everything.
Hmm.
Just, okay, get back in line. And then he was going down the list, and my uncle's next. And my uncle steps forward, and the sergeant's like, "Didn't you just already go?" And then that's when he realized, oh, it's two of them. So,
It's like double
uh,
trouble.
yeah, double trouble. But it it actually makes me a little emotional because I mean, just a little backstory about my dad and my uncle. They grew up in the South, in the
Yeah.
1940s. So it wasn't considered a plantation in the 1940s then, but my dad pretty much grew up on a plantation, where he would pick cotton. Where he really had to work, and he was the second oldest of eight, he and my uncle. And so they had to provide for the younger children. And he went to the army so that way he could provide for his family, my brothers and his siblings and everything. And he talks about how just being exposed to new countries, new people, new cultures, it really inspired him to do his best and be his best for his family. And so when he came back, um, he was able to provide for his family in ways that he couldn't do it in the beginning. And so he just so many great memories that he always shares. And he also taught me how to shoot a gun because he learned how to shoot a gun in the army. So there you go.
Yeah. And just so you know, Germany's my favorite country too. I love Germany.
Oh, I've never been. I've always wanted to go.
I love the food there. I love the culture. It's
That's
a
what I
very,
hear.
very deep culture. Like the castles and even the architect there is really great. And it's absolutely amazing to hear your father where he came from. There's a lot of folks in the veteran community join the military to make that sacrifice to hopefully
Hmm.
have a better future, a better tomorrow. And
Right.
that's one of the things that I think a lot of us, come from less than desirable situations, including myself growing up. My father was in the military, but at the end of the day, my parents did not have the best relationship. There's a lot of domestic violence and things like that growing up. So I always wanted to be like my dad at the same time, because he was just such a strong figure, and he sounds a lot like your father. And they served right around the same time, my father and your father, because my dad was around during the Berlin Wall, and he
Nice.
got in
Got it.
'71, retired in '91. So
Mm-hmm.
so I definitely understand where you're coming from when you talk about that stuff, man. It really hits home for me too. So it
Oh, I
sounds like
love
your
that.
father's an outstanding. Yeah, it sounds like your father's an outstanding gentleman, and a true
Yeah, he's
professional. So,
awesome.
and then makes a
He's
lot of
incredible.
sense why you are where you are, Heather, and you're actually working for U.S. Vets now. And
Yes.
so, can you talk to our audience about what is U.S. Vets, their mission, their vision, and what are some of their core values?
Absolutely. So, U.S. VETS, or United States Veterans Initiative, we are the largest nonprofit to help end veteran homelessness. So, we have 12 sites nationally across the U.S. We actually just opened our 13th site last Tuesday at the West LA VA, which is really nice. We had a huge opening. It was amazing. And we're actually in the process of opening two more sites, if I'm not mistaken. Another one in Houston and one in Atlanta, hopefully. We'll see. But yes, so our mission is to help end veteran homelessness. Unfortunately, a lot of the homeless population, they are veterans or military affiliated in some way, shape,
Mhm.
or form. And so we really make it our mission to go out in the streets and help these homeless veterans. So we have housing units, housing locations. We also have a workforce development program to help them transition into civilian life, have successful careers. We provide their families as well if they need food, shelter, anything, any type of just resources that they need to get back on their feet. Like I said, to transition them back into civilian life. That is our mission and our focus. It's very unfortunate because a lot of our veterans, I'll say a good majority, they go in and they serve. Obviously, they serve our country and they serve our country well. And then when they come back, they just really they don't know what to do after that. They don't have a lot of opportunities that are lined up for them, and so they kind of go into this hole and into this pit where they are stuck, and they need help. And so that is what U.S. Vets. That's what we're here for, to really help them. Yeah, get back on their feet.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing to look at the statistics and look at the amount of homeless and how many folks that were in the military who are part of that statistic specifically, but then also with the suicide rates. And
Exactly.
it's alarming with that being said. And I can't tell you that there's one reason why that is. It's a very complicated, um, I guess, a complicated answer, as of
Mm-hmm.
why that is. But I highly appreciate nonprofits like U.S. Vets and folks like yourself for stepping up and choosing to do this, because at the end of the day, you're a very intelligent woman. There's many things that you could be
Thank
doing,
you.
but you chose this specific employer and to do this role. And speaking of which, would you mind talking about your position with U.S. Vets?
Absolutely. So my official title is the National Corporate and Community Relations Coordinator. Hopefully, I will be a manager soon. Putting it out there. But my specific focus, my specific focus is to really just connect with the communities, local businesses, national corporate sponsors, organizations, entertainment groups, just to really help secure sponsorship, to provide funding, but also to get their employees involved where if the employees want to volunteer at a certain site, if they want to maybe do a service project where they're serving our veterans in some way, shape, or form. That's typically my focus. And then also too, I work on our national cause marketing campaign, which is entitled "Make Camo Your Cause" to hashtag honor US Vets. And essentially, what we're doing with that is the same thing that Susan G. Komen did with pink and how that's associated with breast cancer. So anytime you see, I don't know, a pink toolbox or something, you know that when you buy that, some proceeds will be going back to Susan D. Komen to support in breast cancer. And so we are trying to do that with the camo print. really just having that associated with U.S. vets and ending veteran homelessness. So we're going into our third year of our campaign, and we definitely want each year to be bigger and greater and just more dynamic, but really just spreading awareness through the camo print to help us end veteran homelessness and to support our veterans.
Wow. Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating. And I'm sure that you guys are rolling out multiple programs per year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a mental health program, workforce program, transitional housing, permanent housing. So many different, yes, a lot of resources for sure.
So what are some things that, most people wouldn't know about U.S. vets that you've experienced during your time there?
I would actually say, ironically, it's Women's History Month. Go women, whoop. But I would say that a lot of people wouldn't know that we have quite a few women veterans that we serve with their families, a lot of single moms. And because I
Mm,
think a lot of people assume that most of our clients are men and male. And yes, they are, but we
right.
actually have a good chunk of women veterans that we help support and serve and who have gone to be very successful. So, yes, shout out to the women.
Yeah, no doubt, and no doubt about it. Some of my best connections that I have through the podcast are women veterans
Nice.
who have been so loyal and also provided so much value to me.
Hmm.
And I've done my best to try to provide value back to them. But they've opened my eyes to so many problems and issues within the community as well, and they're doing their part to help out the military community. But overall, Heather, you know, what is your why? Why, out of all the things that you could possibly be doing, why did you choose to find employment with U.S. vets? What is your passion behind all this?
I mean, I think it comes full circle, right? So we started off talking
Mm,
about just my dad and his experience.
mm,
And fun fact, so I'm actually a mommy's girl. My mom's my best friend. And so growing up, my dad and I had a very interesting relationship. My parents are still married. I love my dad. And I will say to this day that if I'm ever blessed with a husband, that I pray that he's like my dad in many ways. Specifically, just even with his work ethic. My dad worked very hard, and my dad always provided. We were never without. But being a creative, of course, I can be emotional. I can be crazy. I'm a creative. I don't know how to I'm
yeah.
artistic. And so my dad and I didn't speak the same language growing up for a little bit. And we had a very weird dynamic. And so this is me working at US Vets is my way of just honoring my dad in the way that I wish I did while I was growing up. I'm super grateful for my dad, like I said, and as an adult, I tell him every day, I'm like, Dad, you have no idea how grateful I am that you were hard on me. That you made me clean every Saturday. That you made me when I made my bed to tuck in those corners, because I know all about the tucking in of the corners in the bed. So, just everything that he taught me. This is this is me saying thank you, and this is me saying that something that he is very proud of, and something that um, unfortunately US Vets wasn't around when my dad was in the military. So when my dad retired, he had to find employment, on his own. And so this is me giving back to his brothers, his community. This is me supporting him in an indirect way, and just really just honoring my father, honor US Vets. This is me doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, what's funny is I remember you talking about that when we spoke at the military influencer conference, talking about how you had to make your bed, you had to do this, and you hated it growing up.
I did. My dad
And
was on me. But as an adult, I'm so OCD. I'm like, I hate anything that's dirty. I'm like, no, it needs to be clean, and it has to be there needs to be structure, and it needs to be organized. And thank you, Dad.
yeah, no doubt, my father was the same way too. My dad was a drill sergeant for 5 years and
Oh,
was a
well, there you go.
ranger and all that stuff. So he was very strict,
Yeah.
just like your father. And I think every kid goes through that phase where you don't necessarily see eye to eye with the disciplinarian in
Of
the
course.
relationship, right?
Yeah.
You go through that phase, and then later on in life, you kind of come back to appreciate some of the life lessons, and their survivability is what it is what
Of
you
course.
are teaching your kids when you do that
Hmm.
sort of thing. But speaking of the Military Influencer Conference and how I remember you talking about that, I was just thinking, like, you're going to be going there this year, right?
I'm hoping to. Think they changed. It's in November now, right? It's no longer in October, I think,
It's in
this year.
November, yeah.
That might be a little hard because obviously Veterans Day is in November. And so, depending on when it falls, we have our big gala right before
Mhm.
the day before Veterans Day. So, I mean, I will try my hardest to make it work because I actually really enjoyed myself. So, yeah.
Well, I was just
Well,
thinking, like, how cool would it be to have the famous Heather Harvin sing the national anthem?
oh,
Maybe to break it open, to open it up.
I know. God. Who do
We
I
need
need
to
to talk?
figure that out.
I don't know. Would they? I don't know if they would want me to. I don't know.
Why would they not want you? You're like the perfect person.
Oh,
You
thank you.
represent so much. You represent so much. I don't know. I was just thinking that, and you seem like you got such an interesting music career. Just to talk about that, to pivot to that, what's beyond the horizon for you, like going forward with what you're personally doing, with your either your career or your music? Where will we see Miss Harvin in the next 5, 10 years or so?
Well, I can say in, I guess next week. Next week, Miss Harvin will be headed to Austin to perform at a songwriters exhibit during South by Southwest. So I'm very excited about that. I kind of fell
Wow.
into my lap. I So just so you know, yes, I sing. I love to perform, but a deep passion of mine is songwriting. And if I could, I would write songs all day, every day. I love creating sounds for other voices and just lyrics and all of that. And so I'm excited that this particular company or brand named Balanced Breakfast, they each year they hold a songwriters expo during South by Southwest to just showcase national songwriters up and coming. And so they selected me this year. So I will be in Austin literally next Friday for that. And I'm excited about that. And I mean, the goal, the ultimate dream, I would love to win Song of the Year for at the Grammys. I just songwriting, just sharing my story, or just being able to write for a Rihanna or to write for an Ariana Grande or a Beyonce. Just those big names, and to be able to just be acknowledged for that. So that would be great.
So far, have you worked with any big names?
So I have not worked for Beyonce, Rihanna. I'm not there yet, but I have been fortunate enough to actually sing with quite a few American Idol artists. So which is pretty cool. So I would say like maybe more
Yeah.
like B-listers. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's really fascinating, that you have so much going on. By the time this publishes, it'll already be past. It usually takes
Oh,
me a few weeks just to edit these,
yeah.
but if I can find it on YouTube or anything like that, I'll make sure I throw that into the show notes. So
Ew.
if it's out there, I'll definitely put the link down there so you can check out how Heather did, how well she did, because we all know she's going to do
Thank
very well.
you.
She's got a beautiful
Yeah.
voice.
Oh, thank you. I was very fortunate. Right before COVID, actually, I was able to perform at the Hollywood Bowl with Kristen Chenoweth. I don't know if you guys don't know who she is. She's a huge musical theater Broadway star. Um, she's now a TV film actress, very talented, and so just being able to perform on that big stage with such an icon in the musical theater world, it was a dream come true.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Now, what part of the South are you from?
I'm actually from Baltimore, Maryland. My dad is from Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay. Okay. When I think of music in the South, I either think of Nashville or Atlanta.
Oh,
Um,
of course, of
I
course.
don't I don't I
Yeah,
don't know why. Is that pretty much the two music capitals of the South?
absolutely. Yes, definitely
Yeah.
Nashville, for sure Atlanta. And actually North Carolina is starting to come, get a little bigger, but
Yeah.
for sure Nashville and Atlanta. I've actually never been to Nashville. I've always wanted to go, so hopefully that can happen soon too.
Yeah, no doubt. Was that part of your reason for moving to LA?
It was. So I moved. I turned 18 and I said I want to be a music star. I'm leaving Baltimore. There's nothing here for
Hmm.
me. I'm bye. And I've now been here for 14 years and I love it.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. I know there's a lot of folks that come here for acting and music and things like that, and
Hmm.
I actually didn't think about it till just now. Put two and two together, because your family's all down there, and then you're up here, sort of on your own. It makes sense that you wanted to launch your career and come up here and find those opportunities out there. So, Heather, it's been so awesome learning about you, your position, your passion behind what you do. Now, over the years, you've been working for U.S. Vets for over a year now, from what I see. And
Hmm.
with that being said, what advice would you have for folks in our military community? If there's any piece of advice, any chunk of advice that you'd like to provide, what would that be?
I will say just a piece of advice is just I think just from working with the clients that we serve at US Vets, a lot of them end up homeless because they are hopeless and they feel like they don't have that same community and support that they have while they were serving. And so, a piece of advice would just be to those who are currently serving or to veterans who might feel that they're very isolated or lonely, just please know that there are resources available to you, specifically even with that US Vets. We are a family and we want to welcome you into our family. We want to do our part to make sure that you are taken care of, and just know that you are not alone, because a lot of them, like I said, they really feel like it's just them against the world, and that's not true at all. We are here to walk with you, and we're here to fight with you always.
Yeah, that's deep actually. And being a vet myself, I know the feeling. They say less than 5% ever serve in the U.S. military, and then an even lesser percentage of that ever go to war. So a lot of times when I'm sitting at the Thanksgiving table with my family, or if I'm sitting at a large table with my friends, I can count on this, that I will probably be the only one there that has my experiences.
Yep.
And sometimes it makes it very difficult to assimilate or to share those experiences.
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of times you would get the weird questions, sometimes inappropriate, sometimes strange, and sometimes you get the stereotypes too. So it's important for those of us that are in the community to stick together and provide that hope, just like what you mentioned right now. Provide that hope and make sure folks know that they're not alone and that there is help out there. I know that what you see today is me doing this podcast, and I seem like I'm doing okay, but I've had a lot of dark moments in my own life that I've had to tread water and overcome obstacles. So I deeply appreciate folks like you who are dedicating their career and their time and their lives to reach back to our military community and help out. So thank you so much for what you do with
Thank
U.S.
you.
Vets and your passion for that.
And thank you for your service. Seriously. Um, we need more KPs in the world. We do. We really do. So thank you. And this
It was an
podcast and platform is beautiful. So thank you for having me. I loved it.
no, absolute honor to talk to folks like you. And Heather, for anyone out there that's interested in following up with you on anything that you mentioned for this podcast, what's the best platform for them to contact you? Is it LinkedIn, Facebook? What do you want them to contact you on?
I would say LinkedIn is great, and literally it's my first and last Heather Harvin, and it's a picture of me in a red shirt, black. Well, it's a black top, red bottom, but you should be able to find me. And then also Instagram as well. I always respond to my Instagram direct messages, and it's at Heather Harvin. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Outstanding. And I'll make sure that I put all that down in the podcast show notes. If you're watching this on
Great.
YouTube, please scroll down to the description and I'll put all the links down there as well. As well, if I can find that performance in Austin, I'll make sure I put that down there too. Hopefully they record it and they put it on YouTube or something,
I
and we can watch you.
know.
So thank you so much, Heather. I really
Thank
appreciate your time
you.
today and doing this interview. It's been great connecting with you, and I hope to see you
Thank
again
you.
this year at the Military Influencer
Absolutely.
Conference.
I will try my hardest. I will. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate you. So, and everyone else out there, please take a look at Heather on her social media platform. She's got a very fascinating music career, as well as an undying passion to help out our military community. And we're so grateful to have folks like her in our corner. And for everyone else out there, as always, I want you to stay tuned, stay focused, and stay motivated.
There you go.
Warriors, fall out.
Fall out. I love that.